Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our hopefully last virtual board meeting. Let me see here. I don't want to get out of order here, so if you would excuse me for just a moment here. So reporting out of closed sessions, the board was updated on labor negotiations. I think I'm already out of order. Let me start out with some announcements, please. Executive Order N-29-20, teleconference flexibility. This meeting is being held pursuant to the procedures established in Executive Order N-29-20 issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 17, 2020. All board members may attend the meeting by teleconference. This meeting will be a virtual meeting only. The public may observe and address the meeting via the instructions in item 2.1. Number 2, public access to the Ackerman Charter School Board of Trustees meeting. 2.1, the public will have access to the Ackerman Charter School Board of Trustees meeting via https://bit.ly/Bowman Live. For those individuals who wish to make a public comment, please do so by completing the form here prior to 6:45 p.m. https://bit.ly/ACSD public comments. The moderator for this meeting will read your comments for the record. Number 3, should this board meeting encounter any security breach or inappropriate issues, the meeting will be ended immediately. 3.1, the Ackerman Charter School Board of Trustees has taken measures to set restrictions and security features to protect meeting participants from inappropriate content or remarks. In the event the meeting is breached, the meeting will end immediately. The board values and welcomes civil and concise communication that inform its deliberations, mission, and vision. Individuals addressing the board are asked to be respectful and avoid remarks that reflect adversely on the character or motives of any one person or any person, or his or her race, religion, gender, political views, or economic status. Profanity will not be permitted. Speakers heard on a particular subject from a previous meeting will be heard after all new speakers have addressed the board, if time remains. Members of the audience who wish to address the board on items on or not on the agenda will need to complete the Google form before 6:45 p.m. The board should hear comments from the audience prior to the formal discussion by board members of the agenda topic under consideration. Formal discussion is the board's time to discuss and is uninterrupted. Non-agenda items. Regular scheduled meetings of the board shall provide an opportunity for public comment on items not listed on the agenda under public comment per the Brown Act. Public comment is an opportunity for the Board of Trustees to listen to district constituents. The board may not respond to comments or answer questions during the public comment time. The board may, at its discretion, refer items to the administration for follow-up or place topics on a future board agenda. All right. And we will go to the, if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call vote. Michael Bellis?
Here.
Mark Hallberg?
Here.
Justin Rednall?
Here.
David Slane?
Here.
Rob Congies are here. All right, now I will report out of closed session that we are updated on labor negotiations. Okay. So moving on then to, we don't have any public comment for items not on the agenda. We'll go to the 9.0 presentation.
Okay, thank you, Rob. As most of you know, the governor and the legislature just came to an agreement last Friday. The governor had signed into law Assembly Bill 86. And just to try to give you some of the highlights and how that may or may not affect us, it was a total of a $6.6 billion funding for education. an additional Prop 98 funds. These are funds that were supposed to be to schools anyway, but were taken back and now are reallocated in a different manner. $2 billion is to assist with opening of schools. $1.6 billion for learning recovery. We have a lot of parents and teachers and staff. We've been talking about it as well. What are we going to do for learning recovery? To try to make up for lost ground. Some of those options might be summer school or things like that. We haven't come up with those options yet because this funding just was signed Friday. So all that still has to be worked out, and we still have to figure out how much we're getting. Obviously, we're not getting $4.6 billion at Bowman for learning recovery. All these funds of the $2 billion to assist with opening and the 4.6 for learning recovery, they all have to be spent by August of 2022. And they're all based proportional on the size of the LEA that the funds are going to. So obviously Bowman's going to get a lot less than Roseville City proportionately, right? So we don't know what those numbers are proportionately that are going to be doled out to us. We don't know if it's $1,000, $100,000, $1 million. I doubt. But when we know, then we can know better what we can actually get done for learning loss. It does have some other strings attached to it, but it can be used for salaries. It can be used for mental health. You're required to offer at least hybrid in person, which we've been doing all along. So a lot of the districts that will open now because of this Prop 86 have this big money incentive to open. And for a while there, it looked like us who were open were going to get penalized and not get anything. But they eventually said, no, everybody should get that. So at least that there was some fairness. You're required to continue to do the C cohort to get this money, to get any of it. So as part of this bill, the governor is changing how they calculate the colored tiers that we all have gotten accustomed to living under. And it's based on a percentage of vaccination within your region or your county. And so once it hits a certain threshold, instead of 7 per 100,000 putting you in the red, it'll go up to 10 per 100,000 will put you in the red tier. Kind of an arbitrary thing, but is what it is, I guess. Some of the important pieces of this legislation is 10% of the learning recovery of the 4.6 billion. 10% of the money we receive has to be used to hire paraprofessionals or aides to assist. If you don't hire the aides, and priority goes to those who have already had a job here first to be able to decline it. If you don't hire the aides, that 10% goes back to the state. So it's kind of an employment piece more than it is a recovery piece. It's trying to get people back in the workforce a little bit. We have to write a plan for how we're going to expenditure this money for the next 2 years by June 1st. Not knowing what the amount of money is yet, it's kind of hard to write a plan, but we'll have to do that. There is some money in that learning loss for homeless students. Every district will get $1,000 per homeless student they have in their district. I think we have 2. So 2 or 3. So we'll get a little bit of money there. The big thing is it's being sold as the governor's successful reopening of schools. And I don't see it as that at all. I see it as a funding source to make it more look like we're doing something to get schools open. There is a penalty if you don't open schools. You'll get fined 1% of the money you're to receive out of this money each day. until it's gone after April 1st, unless you get open. But again, open is any form of hybrid. It's not 5 days. There's no requirement of that in there. It's not full days. It's any form of open counts as open. You see this as a big deal for a big district like LA Unified, who's still not open. 1% to them is a lot of money. So anyway, the state still has kept their June deferral of money when they could have reinstated that and saved on this. So, this is kind of one of those shell game things going on a little bit, but there is a little bit more money for us that we'll be able to spend, and we'll take it. But I don't see it as the panacea that, maybe the governor's office is making it out to be. But I wanted to update you and kind of separate the facts from fiction. You're going to get some money, but it's based on the size of your LEA, and how much that is, we don't know yet. And what's the plan got to look like, and that we have to write by June 1st. We don't know what that needs to look like yet. So again, it just passed last Friday, but I thought it important to share that it's based on your size of LEA. So it's not like we're getting a big lump sum. So
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, then. 10.0, the consent agenda.
So the one thing to note on here is 10.3. We have an additional retiree. And we'll, after you approve this, maybe what we'll do in the next month or two is we'll have our 2 retiring teachers come to the board meeting and be honored. So
Please. Definitely want to honor their service. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm good. I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Bellis.
And I will, this is Justin, I will second.
Second by Mr. Rednall. Roll call vote. Michael Bellis,
Aye.
Mark Hallberg,
Aye.
Justin Rednall,
Aye.
David Slane,
Aye.
Rob Congeezer, aye. Okay, then we're moving on then to correspondence. Cafeteria report.
So as always, we're limping along right now in the time of COVID, but I do want to single out Tracy and Canoyer and Kelly Mills. They're sisters, and they loyal as the day is long, and they're just doing a great job though, meeting everybody's needs and very flexible. And it's nice. Some days can be pretty stressful in here. The other day, and this happens more often than I can count, Tracy walks in with fresh baked banana bread that she made herself for the office, and it's all warm and cut up and everything right out of the oven. So, it's just people like them, kind of keep you going, and they do a great job. We wish we had more kids taking advantage of the food service.
Yeah. Okay, then the Kids Club report.
So our Kids Club, and you guys, the trustees will want to know this going forward, is our Kids Club with our reopening MOU that's on the agenda for your approval later tonight. Their role won't change. They're still only for essential workers' children. They'll be able to open for the half hour before school in the morning and the after school. They won't be in session all during the day now, because if approved, the kids would be coming back during that time. But again, it's still just for essential workers at this time.
Okay.
And of course, so their numbers are down, and their amount of money they're taking in is down, but that's the reason why.
Okay. PTO minutes.
They're there for your
Perusal.
perusal. It's really hard for Beth and PTO to stay super engaged right now with COVID and these times and not being able to meet in person. And it's a real credit to the folks that do attend those meetings, that they're still holding the flame, for it. And I know both groups are itching to get back to normal and get going. And they're starting a big day of giving on May 6th. You'll see in the notes with Beth. And that's a shout out to all those moms that are keeping the candle burning on these.
Right.
At some point we'll get back to normal and they can ramp back up. But it's been really a difficult year for both groups, not being able to meet and recruit new people and those things. So good thing we have the people we do that are keeping it going.
Yeah, these types of groups are difficult in good times. You always need more volunteers and more people that would be engaged in these types of groups when things are running normal. So keeping it going during COVID, congratulations, great job. I would like to encourage our parents to, look at getting involved when we start opening up again. They need you. We need our parents engaged. So I know it's difficult now, but things won't always be this way. So when it turns around, please look at joining those organizations. They could use the help and the support. So. And then Beth, yeah.
So if same thing.
Right. Our enrollment's
climbed a little bit. 2 students. So that's good news. That's good news for us. So we're hoping when we get to 5 days, it'll climb more. Even we'll get some more kids back. So that re-engage, re-enroll, not just come back from C cohort, but actually re-enroll in the school district.
Right. And then the assistant principal report.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm working with Laura Wilkinson's working very diligently on our LCAP. We are putting out our stakeholder input surveys the week prior to spring break, and hope to have those all collected probably the Friday before, so next Friday, and then have them due the following Friday. You, as you know, are aware, those help us identify budget priorities and our offerings for our programs here at school. We are in the midst of writing our charter oversight report, which is an annual document that is due because of our charter. To keep our charter, we have the renewal every 5 years, right, Kelly?
Yep. 5
years, and then the in between time, we do these annual reports. We are looking with part of what Kelly was speaking of earlier about our learning loss. We are working with Mr. Byron, the technology coordinator, and Mrs. Wilkinson, our intervention coordinator, at new and expanded benchmark assessments through the MAP and iReady programs are the 2 that we are looking at to help us get some data that we can use to measure growth better than what we have right now, and offer more in-depth data so that we can identify certain areas or specific areas that students may be lacking and provide interventions for those. And as you are aware, the assistant principal position will be opening in July and is advertised right now, and we'll be interviewing for that in the month of April. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent report.
So mine was the presentation earlier, Rob, so it's really board report now.
All right, board report. Any comments from the board? Save until later. All right. Then we move on to the 13.1 2021-2022 school calendar, which is an action item.
So Kristen led the calendar committee on this. Kristen, you want to give them any updates before that goes to action?
It closely follows or mirrors the high school calendar with our starting date. We look August 11th, and teachers will be back on campus on August 9th. The winter holiday and the spring holiday align. Of course, we have the February holiday, which they don't have, and still 180 instructional days. We still have the minimum days at the end of the month for professional development, and our early out Mondays, if we're back to, assuming we're back to normal schedule, on Mondays for PLC, for professional learning communities for teachers. Other than that, I think it pretty much aligns with the high school, which keeps our attendance up.
Yes. Thank you.
So this is an action item, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
Mike here. I'll move we approve the calendar as presented.
Mark Hallberg, I'll second that motion.
All right. Motion and second. Roll call. Michael Bellis.
Aye.
Mark Hallberg.
Aye.
Justin Rednall.
Aye.
David Slane.
Aye.
And Rob Congeezer. Aye. 13.2. The budget development continued with assumptions.
So if you're looking at your packet online here, you'll see the assumptions page. There's several highlighted areas. The thing I want to point out mostly to you is that since the district received the state bond construction money that we worked so hard applying for and all the hoops we jumped through, we have been able to go back and put the money back in its starting place where it originally was before we started construction, and bring those economic uncertainty accounts back up, special ed and litigation account back up to where you had it before construction. Because if you recall, a few years ago when we were doing the construction, we took money out of those accounts and rolled the dice that we wouldn't have litigation and some of those things, and we didn't, thankfully. And so we've put you back to that kind of that equal starting point. We've put per PCOE's recommendation, they wrote us a letter for predicting the future here. They were a little concerned that districts weren't reserving enough, and they recommended small districts have 17% for economic uncertainty. So we put that back in there. There's one little change in funding in that the state has canceled all the deferrals except the June to July deferral of funding this year. So that's the only one that still remains in the assumptions. One thing you need to realize going forward is this CalPERS number 17, CalPERS and CalSTRS payment that districts are now having to do, especially on the CalPERS side for your classified folks, is going to get out of hand in the next few years. You're going to be pushing 30% payments on those in a couple of years. So, and then beyond that. And at some point it's like, well, you better start funding the districts a lot more money if they're paying the whole bill to pay for it. So our increase in our liability insurance went up about 50% in 1 year. Schools Insurance Group is actually hunting for a new insurance provider that's out for RFP on that. So we'll see what happens on that, but those costs aren't going down any. So those are really about the only changes that are new to maybe from the last time we met and went over them. So there's no action to be taken. This will tie right into Mrs. Corcoran's presentation on the second interim here momentarily when we get to that item.
Okay. Do you happen to know what's driving that liability increase?
Just insurance costs, fire, smoke, all that stuff in the summer, power outages, the whole thing. And, because they can.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. This increase isn't because we did anything wrong.
Right.
On the contrary, we have about the lowest liability rate of any of the school districts in Placer County, because we don't turn in a lot of liability claims ever, either on the workman's comp side or on property side. So it's just, that's the rates that they bargain as a collective to try to get the rate down, and that's still how much it's being increased.
Right. I'm just wondering, and I know you won't actually have the answer. I doubt you have the answer, but I'm just wondering what kind of, what they're looking at for the future that's driving them to see it as being so expensive. But
I don't know if this is an answer or not, Rob. I would just say you live in a very litigious state. And, when everybody can be sued for everything, then insurance rates go up.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at your PG&E costs going up because the government won't, give PG&E any protection on these summer fires, but then wouldn't let them cut underneath the power lines for years. Right. Now they're making them do all the work, but not protecting them or helping them out with those costs. So it's all, tied to that,
Yeah.
Kelly, item 26, the cash deferrals, that's 2021, not 20, or is that 2021?
It's actually I believe that's 2021, June to July.
Of this year.
Of this year, 2021.
Okay.
This is Ann. Mr. Hallberg, that is for the 21-22 school year. So that is correct to read June 22 to July 22, because that is for next year's school budget preparation that we're.
Okay. Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then moving on to new business, and I believe we do have some items to be read.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have 12 letters that I would like to read in regards to the reopening plan. Mr. Graham, we are now in our 6th year as a Bowman family. We love the school. Our name is on a plaque on the new multipurpose building. I have nothing but respect for teachers. Every teacher we have had is a hero and a superstar. I am a union member and honor the negotiations with the teachers union. I find no fault with what has been done so far with protective measures for our children and community. All this being said, I have heard rumors of discussion about not returning to a normal schedule in the fall. I believe that would be a mistake. By that time, educators and vulnerable citizens will have had time to be vaccinated. By my reading, evidence shows a return can be done safely. I know everyone on staff there is putting in their best efforts. However, there is no way our children are getting the full and well-rounded education that they deserve. We have lost a year now and no doubt will become a year and a half. I and everyone I have spoken to is prepared to fight for a return to normalcy next school year. If you choose not to provide this, we will be examining all of our options. Yours in education, Josh White. Bowman board members. Our family is pleased to hear the news that the school district and teachers have reached an agreement for school to begin 5 days a week. We need final approval. Actions of the board members, school district, and teachers not agreeing to open school shows the school has lost sight of what is most important, the education of our children. Some parents choose Bowman Charter School because it is accredited as one of the top ranking schools in Placer County. Our children will continue suffering from the lack of education if the campus does not open full time. As I have worked with fellow students during the pandemic, I have observed spelling, penmanship, and motivational decline. While at home, distance learning students have difficulty staying on task if a parent is not able to assist the teachers. Required school assignments. The Chromebooks correct spelling and English grammar for children. This can be a useful tool, but not until an appropriate time in a child's learning process. This feature cannot be turned off, and it is teaching bad habits. With the current scaled-back curriculum, things have become easy for children. I believe class time is not being used effectively. When school opens back to minimum days and hopefully full days in the fall, can you tell us how it will look for the children? Will they have more traditional time in class at pre-pandemic levels? Will students still be on Chromebooks up to 5 hours a day? Is in-class paperwork an option? Will the school resume parent-teacher conferences for all parents and students? This would be valuable as students have missed ample amounts of education. Is there a plan to make up the missed education when school resumes full-time? We need answers to plan for our children's education in the upcoming year. We believe in Bowman Elementary School, the teachers and the board members. As this continues, our belief and children's belief is slipping away. We are here to speak for them and stand by them. By standing with Bowman for almost 2 years during this pandemic, trying to be flexible, it shows we've been supporting you in the changes you've made to make the circumstances at hand. It is time for the tables to turn, for Bowman to do what is best for the education of the children. Make us believe this is still the right and best place for our children. Show us that we can still trust you with the best education possible. Actions speak louder than words, and we need action. Sincerely, Elizabeth Foxworthy, 1st and 4th graders. I would like to thank the board for considering the return of a 5-day in-person school week. I also encourage you to approve this proposal. Our children are thrilled at this opportunity, and we are so thankful to have this come before you. We love Bowman and its teachers, Nicole Grady and family. Thank you, Mr. Graham and teachers, for the proposed 5-day per week of instruction. The parents truly appreciate this. Please continue to push for full-day instruction so we can end the school year on a track back to normalcy for our kids. If we as parents can help in any way, please let us know. We look forward to getting back to full days of instruction. Sincerely, the Tucker family. The announcement of 5 days per week is great. However, there are still concerns. When will our students receive 5 full days of instruction? What are the barriers, roadblocks? What is the plan for the fall? Will these items be on the next agenda? Sarah Brunkhorst. While I am very excited for our kids to go back 5 days per week, as many parents are, I think it is important for the parents involved in this movement to understand why Bowman is not ready to reopen full-time yet, or why the new move to go part-time 5 days wasn't done sooner. Many seem to think it is due to actions of a few key staff, in particular those who are brave enough to stand up and represent all teachers when the desires of their majority do not align with the loudest and not always respectful voices. Staff are being singled out and ripped to shreds publicly and on social media. The people being singled out are some of the hardest working and self-sacrificing people I've met. The way they've been treated recently is completely unacceptable and should not be tolerated by the school, or anyone for that matter. I feel that more frequent communication would go far in keeping parents feeling satisfied and informed. Mr. Graham has always held his door open to any conversation, but parents don't always come forward to communicate. I think it would greatly benefit us all to have more frequent updates to keep minds at ease that changes are consistently in the works. An example is when teachers began receiving vaccinations, an email to let people know it was happening and could impact reopening details, schedules would have been great. Or to explain the limitations to reopening more fully, such as lack of space and the need to requirements guidelines if those are contributing factors. The more transparent that the administration can be about reopening, the more confident parents will be that we are moving toward a more expanded reopening as quickly as possible. And hopefully, the less likely they will be to vilify individuals who are more transparent about their part in reopening and also their part explained so not misinterpreted, leading to poor and unfair treatment. I am confident that everyone involved in the ever-evolving planning for future reopening at Bowman is doing their best in making appropriate decisions for our children and staff. I appreciate school staff more than ever before and stand by the decisions made by the school. I have never seen such a massive effort made for our children, and I'm so very grateful. Annie Brodsky. We are writing in support of the school, increasing the number of in-person days to 5 days a week. The distance learning days are very challenging, and our children are not getting the same education they are receiving when they are in class. For those not wanting to go back, we respect that decision, but ask that the option for 5 days a week be made available to those that do want their children in school. Many other schools in Placer County are back to 5 days a week, and we ask that you let our kids come back to school. They deserve the best education they can receive, and the distance learning has taken its toll. Please do not allow our children to continue to be deprived of their in-person education. Sincerely, the Lennon family. Thanks everyone for your efforts during this really tough year. We are deeply appreciative of our teachers who have worked above and beyond to provide high-quality education for our kids in spite of immense challenges. We are grateful to the Board of Trustees, BATA, and the administration for making sound decisions using best available information during consistently changing conditions. We were supportive of the December 15th reopening plan, which outlined a return to 5-day school for combined cohorts A and B once Placer County returned to the orange tier. We felt that plan afforded a balance of in-person classroom time along with minimizing disease transmission. We are aware that information is constantly changing and that disease transmission at school appears to be low. We are supportive to adopt the proposed schedule later this month. Our kids would greatly benefit from more time in their classrooms with their teachers and friends. As working parents, we would most certainly benefit as well. Despite our exhaustion, the pandemic is still ongoing. Placer County remains in the purple tier. We trust the revised reopening schedule will not compromise the existing commitment to safeguard public health and minimize disease transmission within the Bowman community. If the proposed schedule is approved, please provide clear information about expectations and how the health and safety guidelines and recommendations will continue to be addressed. Thanks again. We really are appreciative of all your efforts. Michelle Berry. Dear administration, board members, and teachers, I commend you and the staff on coming to an agreement to bring students back to more in-person instruction. This change is going to help tremendously. With that said, I'm still very concerned about the learning loss that has occurred this year and last. According to NWEA, Northwest Evaluation Association, it is predicted that students started this school year having lost roughly a third of a year in reading and half a year in math. CREDO, an education research organization, recently projected that the average student lost 136 to 232 days of learning in math, depending on their state. McKinsey, a consulting firm, predicts that students have lost 3 months to a year of learning. Before COVID hit, NWEA studies showed that learning loss during a regular summer break ranged from 20 to 50%. These numbers cannot be ignored. When you combine summer slide with COVID learning loss numbers, we are looking at students losing 1 or 2 years of learning, or maybe even more. I would like to suggest that we start thinking about a summer program that can help students gain instead of lose learning over the break. It should be a program that is optional and offers incentives for those who want to participate. Assignments for each grade level could be organized and pushed out through Google Classroom. Just having students practice a little reading, writing, and math review is just a few minutes a day can make a huge difference for the next year. In the past, I have purchased summer review books for my children. However, when a teacher is in charge of assigning work, it is so different. Students take it more seriously, and there is less conflict in the home. If many families opt into a program like this, it means less intervention, IEPs, etc., for next school year. I know this is an unusual proposition. However, this has been a most unusual school year. Our children are in desperate need of getting back on track, and I hope that you will consider offering something to help bridge that gap to families that want it. Thank you for your time, Michelle Lanier. Dear Board of Trustees, thank you to the Bowman teachers, administration staff, and board members for all of your hard work during this challenging year. I particularly want to thank our teachers who are going above and beyond to engage, support, and educate our kids during these difficult times. We are grateful to BATA, the Board of Trustees, and the administration for working together to make reasonable decisions about school schedules based on available information and for adjusting to constantly changing conditions and information. We appreciate in particular your commitment to following safety protocols and CDPH guidelines. We were supportive of your decision about school opening in the earlier fall and also the modified plan in December. We are pleased the disease transmission at Bowman appears to be low, and we hope that will continue as we now move towards combining cohorts and changing to a 5-day-a-week in-person schedule. We trust you will continue to follow CDPH guidance, and safety protocols, and that you will continue to provide families with clear communication about expectations and guidelines so that we can do our part to help. Thank you, Marin. I am disappointed in the school's proposed plan for further reopening. Not only does it discount the unanimously agreed upon plan now in place, it throws out CDC and AAP recommendations for schools reopening in deference to a handful of families who erroneously blame our teachers for their children's mental health concerns. We cannot continue to place the burden of caring for our children's mental health on our teachers. That is the parents' responsibility, and no amount of in-person schooling will magically cure depression. I have 3 points. 1, middle school students should not switch classrooms. Forcing large groups of students into hallways and requiring them to share equipment with other students is against CDC and AAP guidelines. It is also completely lacking in common sense when an alternative is currently in practice at this school that is compliant with CDC and AAP guidelines. This is a very simple and very effective measure to avoid spread, and there is no reasonable purpose to stop the current practice of having teachers move classrooms. Number 2, the proposed schedule change should occur after spring break. Children need to build resiliency to healthy process trauma. Key tools in helping build resiliency are consistency and routine. Interruptions to these are severely detrimental. This proposed change once again interrupts students' routine, damaging their natural ability to build resiliency in a difficult year. Not only that, but the proposed date, the most ridiculous time to change their schedule, the week preceding spring break. That week will be wasted academically because the students and teachers will be getting used to a new schedule and new way of operating. Then they will be gone for a week and will have to start all over again the week following spring break. If you want to actually help our children, then minimize these changes by starting the new schedule after spring break. Number 3, the board needs to make a public statement to support to Bowman teachers. A board member's spouse using that relationship to claim insider knowledge made public comments that damaged the relationship and trust that parents, school board, administration, and teachers ought to have with each other. Bowman teachers have been absolutely amazing this year, rising to a challenge no one anticipated when they entered this profession, and have given our children an excellent school year under these conditions. Their hard work and dedication should be praised and recognized. Rebecca Kreiner. I understand that you have been wanting to go 5 days a week. I also understand why. However, I do not believe that is necessary, and I do not think that if you insist on going 5 days, it should be before break. Also, spring break offers more time to vaccinate more teachers and staff. If the staff and teachers are vaccinated, less people will catch COVID-19, which means less people will die. I also do not think that students should switch classrooms because that will cause more germ transfer, even with all of the cleaning. This consequently will mean that more people will get sick. I do not think that the school should have students switching classrooms at all for the rest of the year or until all students and staff are vaccinated. This will mean that the school would be almost impossible of transmitting the virus, so very few, if any, people will die from it. I believe, as I am sure you do too, that way too many people have died from this virus. Thank you, Kaden Kreiner, 6th grade student at Bowman Charter. We are beyond excited for the tentative plan for opening 5 days a week that is hopefully going to be voted yes on tonight. I hope we can continue to push for 5 full days now. I would really appreciate transparency moving forward on what the holdups are from being open 5 full days a week, the Clark family. And those are all of our letters.
Julia, we should have one more from a student that didn't get read last month.
They emailed me back and said there was no need to read it this month.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Julia. So 14.1, the reopening school MOU.
So I think before the trustees vote on this, I feel after all those letters that I should respond a little bit in an effort to communicate more. Communication was kind of a theme, whether you were for opening more or not opening more. So let me say a few things about the reopening plan, and try to separate fact from fiction for anybody who's out listening. All but, I believe, Colfax Elementary and Tahoe Truckee, all schools in Placer County are now open some format 5 days per week. Some of them are opened all day. Some are opened like we are intending to open with a 3/4 day. Some are less than that. Kind of the whole gamut, but most of Placer County is open or has been open. We were one of the last to plan to open on this MOU. Secondly, all our precautions that we've had this entire year, from masks to cleaning to grab and go lunch to try to stabilize cohorts so our elementary classes only go out to play with their same grade level, all of that is still in place in this MOU. None of that has changed. We are still requiring masks, et cetera, et cetera. We also appreciate the situation many of our C cohort families are in. I believe we have about 93 of those families currently, and we'll have several of them who have already requested to rejoin the A and B in-person cohorts, but we'll still have a significant number of families who don't want to come back to in-person instruction, and the teachers and school, we are still providing that option through at least the rest of the year, and quite possibly next year as well. We know we're not going to please everybody. You could kind of see that through the letters tonight. 5 days is great, but not good enough. 5 days is too much. The governor and legislature's plan, signed last Friday, demands all schools be open to at least a hybrid model, and penalizes you if you don't, financially at 1% a day for every day after April 1st you're not open. Hybrid would count as open, but let me put some data out there as well. Spread of COVID in schools in Placer County is 0.11 of 1%. Spread nationally in schools, this is, let me find it here. This is November 5th article in AAMC, which is a medical journal. On November 5th, they said spread in schools was at 0.13. So the data's been out there for a while. I'm sure people were skeptical. I'm also sure people were scared, because that data just doesn't seem to make sense with the adult narrative of the horrors of COVID when it gets a hold of you. but that's just the reality of it in schools. As many of you know, and I'm not trying to be long-winded, the primary responsibility of reporting student child abuse or student poverty and things like that rests on the schools. Period. That reporting is pretty much at zero in the state of California this year, meaning there are no reports of child abuse. And I think we'd all be naive to think that child abuse just stopped. Kids need to be in school, in my opinion, and we need to keep them safe while they're in school. I think this MOU that's presented to the board tonight that was worked on diligently with data supporting by both teachers and administrative staff tries to do the very best in both areas to get kids back, but get them back safely, keep teachers safe. Our county has done a great job at vaccinating those educators and those staff members in school that want to be vaccinated. And that in itself is no light decision. I can tell you I've been vaccinated, and just my 2 cents, I haven't felt the same since. So, you know, when a teacher, an educator decides to make that decision to go get vaccinated, I think that's a thing of courage, and I think that should be recognized as well. So I understand a lot of the concerns. Actually, I understand all the concerns, and I understand not everybody's going to be happy with this MOU, but we've tried to take a measured approach using data, using science, and also being proactive with what we've done. I think the school's done a great job of handling COVID when we have had students come down with COVID, and until today, meaning not yet, we haven't had this happen. We have not seen one case of spread at Bowman. We've had several kids have COVID, but in the contact tracing, they've received it from a family member outside of school or a family event or whatever. Most of those being over the Christmas vacation. So we are asking NEC parents, if they decide they want to come back to be part of the 5-day a week in person, that they have to notify Julia Reed by this Friday, so we can make arrangements. We are going to address learning loss. That was brought up. As soon as we know what our funding is from the state towards that learning loss, what we actually get, and how we can budget for that learning loss. We have to get those plans built, but it's going to take us more than a few days after the governor signed the legislation on last Friday. I think right now we have about 25 families that want to come back from the 93 or so that were on the C cohort. And what we'll do is we'll let just about all of them come back. But if we have a physical space constraint in middle school or grades 4 through 8, because that's where our classes get larger, there will be a priority on learning loss first. Our students who are struggling or failing will get first shot to come back for the limited space, because we're still going to keep 4 feet of distance between kids' desks and classrooms. So we're trying to take a measured approach. Again, like one person wrote, whoever it was, thank you. Yeah, the door's always open. You can always come in and talk to me, or grab me on the sidewalk and talk to me. When I'm out there waving at you to pull forward in the pickup line. So I want to thank everybody that worked hard on the MOU, our teachers, our staff, and Mrs. Wells worked really hard on this. And, there's there's a lot of difficulty planning for something when to play a game, let's say, when they keep changing the rules on you. I have a stack of papers behind me. You can see them down there, but it's about yay tall, and that's all the different changes that we've had to do through the year from different directives from the state of California as they've learned more about COVID. The science wasn't exact starting out. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. You can do this activity, but you can't do that activity, and didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of us. And through it all, we've had to try to persevere and make everybody happy. And when you try to make everybody happy, you make nobody happy 100%. But in the end, we're trying to do what's best for kids, and will always be best for kids. And I think to say anything less of anybody here at Bowman that we're not kid centered wouldn't be fair. So with that, we have an MOU for the board to approve tonight that we worked hard on. It basically, we would be able to bring our A and B cohorts here together 5 days a week. It would still be grab and go lunch. At the current release times, none of the times change. It's just the kids get to come 5 days a week. And, you know, I heard some comments about, it should start after spring break. You know, we wanted to start at this next week, but we had parent conferences, so we didn't want to disrupt you for that. So, but I think getting a week back is not a week too soon. I think our kids in this country, not just our town or our school, have proven how resilient they can be, much more than us adults. They're flexible, they adapt, they overcome. And though, yeah, things might be challenging, that they might just get used to their schedule for 5 days, then they get a week off. I think it's okay. I think it'll be okay. So with that, I would just present the MOU to the board to approve and recommend strongly we approve it.
Okay. Well, I will make a motion to approve item 14.1, the reopening school MOU.
This is Justin. I'll go ahead and second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Michael Bellis,
Aye.
Mark Hallberg,
Aye.
Justin Rednall,
Aye.
David Slane,
Aye.
Rob Congeezer, aye. And before I move on to the next item, I just want to thank all the teachers, the staff, and the administration for working hard on this. We are all aware that we need our students back full time. And we are trying to work within the guidelines set by the state, the uncertainty of coronavirus, to provide the best situation that we can for your students. We all want them back. I do expect that we'll be pushing for, a normal school year next year, provided that the state allows us to do that. But I would also like to state that I am no stranger to remarks that may not be popular. I'm no stranger to discourse that, from opposite sides of a viewpoint. However, I strongly believe that the only way that can be done is with respect. You may not agree with them. That's fine. There are a lot of people that I don't agree with. I'm great friends with them. I respect them greatly. If you want to protest on the streets, that's your right. I applaud that protest. Respectfully. Do it respectfully. You want to be against the protesters? That's your right. Do it respectfully. You have comments about the staff, the teachers, the administration, the board. I will take all the criticisms you have. Just do it respectfully. We are a family here. We are a small school, and family doesn't always get along. In the end, we still love each other. So let's keep it that way. Okay, off my soapbox. Item 14.2, the annual Con App.
So the Con App is short for Consolidated Application. This is a required online document that I have to fill out every year, and every year you have to approve it. It's basically just like an approval of funding mechanism that we're spending our dollars correctly that are allocated for Title I and a couple other programs that we do. If I don't plug the numbers in right, it doesn't let me submit it. But part of this submission is an annual approval. I have done it. I have turned it in. This is a stamp for the trustees.
Okay.
Mike here. I will move we approve the annual Con App.
David Slane seconds.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Michael Bellis.
Aye.
Mark Hallberg.
Aye.
Justin Rednall.
Aye.
David Slane.
Aye.
Rob Congizer, aye. All right, 14.3, the second interim report.
This will be Mrs. Corcoran, our CBO, will be presenting our second interim report. And let me tell you, she's worked for a month on this and on weekends. You drive by Bowman, you see a white car out front, it's because Ann is here working. Don't come knock on the door.
Good evening, Mr. President and Board of Trustees. I will share my screen now, and let's see, here we go. Hopefully, let me know. Do you see that now? Is it?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm here to present the Ackerman Charter School District 2020-2021 second interim report. So I put together the presentation that goes along with the pages that are in your packet of the state reporting software that we drag all our data in and massage the numbers and get it to come out hopefully positively. And we have a positive certification. And the criterion standards review summary, we have some items that are not met, and also fiscal indicators that are yes, but I've filled out the explanations on the criterion standard form that's at the back of the packet. That's that really thick one that, you know, if you have trouble sleeping, that's a good one to solve that problem. So moving on to our multi-year projections. For unrestricted, I'll just point out some of the highlights here. Because of the hold harmless funding that we're receiving this year, there were no changes for the 2021 LCFF revenue. With the governor's proposed budget that came out in January, we did see an increase in revenue for 21-22. With that, what they're calling the makeup COLA of 3.84. For 22-23, oh, I missed a number there, didn't I? 2022-2023, we are using the school services more conservative COLA at 1.28. Department of Finance is suggesting a 2.98. But I feel it's a lot easier to adjust your numbers up than to adjust your numbers down, especially with revenue. Other numbers stayed pretty consistent. We have our transfer in of 2.2 million this year. That's that Prop 51 bond money. We had it deposited to Fund 40 and then brought it into Fund 1 to restore our reserves, as Mr. Graham was speaking about earlier. So everything else pretty much stayed the same here, and our total revenue for current year, 6.5 million, and then carries out over the upcoming years. The expenditures in our multi-year projections, we've got our salaries as usual that increase with our step and column annually. This reporting period is as of January 31st, so all our numbers are based up to that point. We've got our expenditures and benefits that increases over the years. And supplies, books and supplies, we are contemplating or planning for a math adoption for 22-23 school year. So that's why we have a larger expenditure amount there. And our total expenses for unrestricted are 4.4 million this year and increase slightly over the out years. Okay, and our ending fund balance or beginning balance this year's 2.3 million, and ending balance with that Prop 51 money, we've got 4.5 million ending fund balance. And here we show the reserve for economic uncertainty at the 17%, and so that brings that to 1 million, and that's projected for all 3 years. On the restricted side, the budget remains pretty stable with LCFF. The federal funding this year is higher due to the learning loss mitigation funds and the CARES Act. Some of that is part of the state funding is higher due to those funds as well, but that is this year only. Well, except for the new money that Mr. Graham was talking about, but as of January 31st, we do not have that data to put in here. So, and our contributions are coming from unrestricted to cover the special education excess and restricted maintenance that's budgeted. The expenditures in a restricted, again, the current year numbers are higher due to spending that CARES funding and learning loss mitigation funding. And so it leaves our total expenses for restricted at 1.6 million this year, and then lower in the out years. Our assumptions haven't changed much from first interim's report, with the exception of the items listed here. And that would be M under the staffing. We increased our classified staff just a little bit with the, when we went back to the A and B cohorts on campus, that additional Wednesday, every other Wednesday. So we needed staffing to cover that. And then the designation of economic uncertainty, upping that to the 17% that's recommended by the County Office of Education. We were able to restore the designations for ADA loss, litigation, and special education to 10%. And our property and liability insurance, we had budgeted for about 39% increase. It actually came in at a 50% increase over last year. And part of that is with the AB 218, I believe, for that the additional increase for that. And then the reminder about the cash deferrals for this year, February through June, about 703,000. And there's our graphic on that. And you can see that 53% of our financing for February, actually, we won't see until November of next school year. And March's funding will be pushed out to October and so on and so forth till we get to June. And it's 100% of June's funding we will see in July of 21. The assumptions for the out years for 2021 and 22, 22 and 23. The staffing remained consistent with how we presented it in first interim. Our enrollment is, we are estimating 563, which is current as of developing second interim budget January 31st. We'll go with that lower number. We're hopeful of getting more students, but we budget on the lower end for that. And we're anticipating keeping the designation of economic uncertainty at 17% and the ADA loss special education litigation at 10%. We've included the changes in CalSTRS and CalPERS for those out years. And then we had with the governor's proposed budget, we're now anticipating our deferral to be just June to July for the 21-22 school year. In December, when I reported first interim, we had been advised to calculate the same deferrals for next year that we would be experiencing this year. But that's a nice reprieve there to only have 1 month of deferrals next year. So getting into a little bit more detail with the general fund, our unrestricted side, we saw no changes between first interim and second interim. We're total revenues 5.1 million for current year. Our expenditures, we were able to transfer some of the salary expenses for certificated and classified to the restricted side using the CARES and learning loss mitigation funds, and the same with books and supplies. We were able to utilize some of those more restricted funds for that. So our total expenditures on unrestricted general fund is 4.4 million. So we had a net income of 716,000. Our interfund transfers, the 2.2 million from the bond money, giving us an ending balance of 4.5 million. So the components of that ending fund balance is our revolving cash of $1,000, and then the other assignments totaling 3.4 million. So it's our mandated costs, cafeteria maintenance, targeted instruction, safety credit. We put a year's reserve for the loan payment. In the upcoming years, we're anticipating a little bit more of a struggle with the funding that we're receiving. So we'll have that in reserve. Our math adoption, our reserve for economic uncertainties at 1 million. On the restricted side, with LCFF, no change between first interim and second interim. We did receive a little bit more Title I and Title II money, and also a little bit more in the community redevelopment funds, bringing that revenue to 885,000. The expenditures, we see the increase on this side from the what we moved in from the unrestricted side. So utilizing those COVID-19 funding programs for salaries, books and supplies, and also services. We didn't have any transfers in or out. The contributions stayed the same from first interim, and we have an ending balance of $387,000. The summary of funds, as Mr. Graham touched on earlier with the Kids Club report, we've seen quite the decrease in our revenue there, but yet we still have to staff for those students that we do have on campus. The Kids Club program had a pretty healthy beginning balance, and that's been able to cushion some of those expenses. With Fund 13, our cafeteria fund, same kind of story. We are seeing some more payments come in, though, with the upcoming opening 5 days a week. We're seeing more funds come in, so hopefully some of these numbers will change and even out a little bit. But our revenue is lower than our expenses. And again, with the beginning balance, a healthy beginning balance, we've been able to utilize that to offset it. Our other funds remain pretty stable. The Fund 20 post-employment benefits, our income there is all interest-based. Interest is down this year about 80% in a 1-year period. We've dropped about 80% on our interest revenue. So our ending balance for Fund 20 is projected to be $64,704. Fund 25, capital facilities, we were doing pretty good at the beginning of the year. Received $14,000 in redevelopment fees or developer fees, and haven't seen any recently, but that's giving us an ending balance there of $28,500. Fund 40, you can see our $3.1 million revenue there, the Prop 51 money, and our transfer out of 2.2, and our ending balance there, 781. Fund 73, the MUSO fund, again, is the revenue is interest-based, so there's not a lot of movement there. We're still anticipating an ending balance of 9484. So our average daily attendance, we're able to use hold harmless, so the last year's numbers. And so that's it's the same as it was at first interim. Cash flow, we are still asked to submit 2 years worth of cash flow data. So you've got those pages there in your packet. Our net increase and decrease on row E, it shows the fluctuating month-to-month expenses and revenues, and also it lists the deferrals for February through June this year and June to July next year. Our ending cash, row F, with our reserves, we are sufficient to cover our expenses. Our Form SMO in your packet, Every Student Succeeds, our maintenance of effort. It is a form that autofills from all the data that is brought into that state software. So our required effort is to spend $8,329 per ADA, and our current expenditures are just about 1,000 more than that. So our MOE, maintenance of effort, has been met. The Education Protection Act. This is money that we receive, and it's spent on certificated salaries. And that concludes my report. Any questions or concerns?
I think you're muted, Mark.
I'll jump in then. Thanks, Ann. Good job.
You're welcome.
Good information that we'll need to watch closely as we go forward. So appreciate all your work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I just had a question back on slide 4. I don't know. Just looking at the benefits, the increase from this year to next year it goes up about 50,000.
On the,
Yeah, and then the following year it goes up about 100,000. Is that just because of the increases in CalSTRS and CalPERS?
because of these percentage rates are, well, here CalSTRS is, drops a bit, but we go up 2.3% on PERS next year, and then we go up 3.3% on PERS that next year out.
Yeah.
So, and then STRS is going to be jumping up also from 15.92 up to 18%.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Now take tomorrow off, Ann.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job, Ann.
Okay. And this is an action item also?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Mike here. I'll move we approve the second interim report.
This is Mark. I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Michael Bellis.
Aye.
Mark Hallberg.
Aye.
Justin Rednall.
Aye.
David Slane.
Aye.
And Rob Congeser. Aye. Okay. 14.4, Resolution 21-03-01.
Well, this is a reduction in particular kinds of service, reduction in force. We can effectively restructure our psychologist position, and we recommend approval.
Okay, I will approve, or move we approve the resolution 21-03-01.
And this is Rob. I will second. So roll call vote. Michael Bellis.
Aye.
Mark Hallberg.
Aye.
Justin Rednall.
Aye.
David Slane.
Aye.
Rob Congeser. Aye. Okay. Future agenda items, April 14th for the next board meeting, hopefully in person, please. Would be nice.
Yep, it would be.
Would be very nice. We have the library and tech plan. Nice. Don't forget daylight savings. Ugh. That's this early, huh? It's this week. Wait, is it this week? No. Yes. Sunday. Oh, okay. Go to bed early. Parent conference week, spring break, and the board meeting on the 14th. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. If there's any other comments from the board? Then we shall adjourn 8:24.
Thank you, everybody. Be safe.
Have a good
Okay.
evening.
Yep, you too.
You as well.